I think I'm active. At least my mic shows it's working. YouTube says I'm working. Definitely a random stream. I'm not sure if people would notice. It has been a while since I've done a live stream. Although granted, I think my last stream wasn't as far away as I thought it was. Let's see, my channel. Uh, 3 months ago. Okay, yeah, it's still longer than I thought. And that was doing my water speaker design work, which I do want to do again. My main topic for today is working on my to-do list for the year. Well, my current known to-do list. Yeah. Projects for 2025. Well, let's see. Things I need to work on for 2025. We have our build project that will be happening in the summertime. Actually, date / when. And what needs to happen. And I'll probably break them down on separate sheets as well. Summer 2025. And the main thing that's happening for that one is I'm going to fix previous designs for I want to go back and fix my designs on my inventory management project to make everything work nicely. What else? Got the audio speakers. We got the bookshop desk. Have the sofa. I am totally distracted. Which, no better time to stream than being distracted. Hey, somebody has joined. Woohoo! Hi, Keith. Let's see. Workshop desk. Locks. Try and do some sorting with these. I want a PNP machine set up at some point in the summer. Maybe even a multi-material 3D printer. Right. Let's do that. And let's figure out why the volume is low. Because Windows decided to auto-decrease my volume again. Right. That setting always annoys the heck out of me. It's supposed to be some sort of auto-adaptive thing, but it always decreases it when you don't want it to be. Basically a stream about the plans for the year. And doing it just before John's stream, just as a time filler. So we'll be working on the inventory management project in the summer when the grant funding continues. Lots of stuff that will happen for that one, which I'll probably put in a separate sheet. Electronic locks. Do I have a good example of this? I do. I picked up, I'm just going to switch the camera view. Yeah, so I picked this up a while back. And I actually have more than one. I have this one as well. and they are door locks, standard residential door locks for North America. The control board in them is 2-year based, and I've been working on replacing it with ESP. We have 4 properties that have electronic locks currently. They're not bad, but they're not the greatest. The front door ones tend to give you enough notice when the battery is low that you can replace it. The ones that are typically on the bedrooms, however, do not. They annoyingly tend to just die. Sometimes it happens during the daytime and you get lucky and you can replace the battery. Other times it happens at midnight and you gotta stumbly go find the key, manually open it, take a screwdriver to it, replace the battery, and then crawl back into bed. Hopefully once I finalize the design on this, I can set it up to notify me that it needs new batteries. I'm also gonna set it up so on this basic version, I tried putting RFID because the original version had RFID on the keypad. I was finding it highly unreliable. Actually couldn't get 0 data out of the RFID, so I probably screwed something up somewhere. I don't really need RFID, and I'm not fond of it for this application simply because it's not really that secure. So I don't want to use it, so I'm removing it. The ESP works totally fine, connects to Wi-Fi, no issues. And I used the raw chip on this, so it's my first time trying to do that. So happy that worked. The touch is very finicky. So I have 2 new designs of this. One uses the chip I'm already using, but adjusts the keypad because I've played with the design of the keypad twice now, and I've gotten slightly better results each time. So I've done another change to it, and I'm hoping that will hopefully make the next version work. But the next version I also designed 2 different controllers. One uses the chip I've already been testing, and another uses an Attini chip where you can program touch control into it. I know the ESP can do touch control, but the S3 that I'm using cannot do enough touch pads that this keypad has. A 32 could. I know there's a reason I'm using an S3 and not the regular 32, and I can't remember it off the top of my head. And it's got a motor driver on board as well to control the locking and unlocking, plus a bunch of I/O to monitor the position of the lock so it always knows if it's locked or unlocked. And there'll probably be an extra I/O added as well for what do you call it? I want to know if the door is actually closed, because that's something that our current doors don't have. The big one that it also adds, at the request of the person I'm building it for, is it has a fingerprint sensor. So they have a fingerprint sensor on them. They work actually fairly well. I'm quite happy with them. The bonus of the fingerprint sensor is it also has a built-in light. So good for sensing that. And that's actually part of why the keypad isn't the greatest, is because it has lights inside, which gives a massive cutout to the keypad, which I think is what's affecting touch performance. So in the next version I have the resistors on the backside control, and I've made the cutouts like really, really, really small. So hopefully that improves that performance. And the reason for the lights is so that at night you'll actually be able to read the keypad, because otherwise it's darn near impossible to read the keypad. My flashlight unfortunately doesn't go dimmer than that, but you can see that the keys are transparent through the plastic. So I want to do that one ideally sooner than later. That also includes the water speakers. I started working on the design. Maybe, but the issue is majority of these keypads are actually indoors. So solar doesn't work too well. The easiest option, well, not really easy, but if I were doing this for my own house that I was building, I would probably just design either mortise locks, so it's built into the door frame, or I would run PoE to this. And here in North America, we at least have cables that can be mounted to doors. Usually they're used for security systems, but it allows the door to open and close, but the cable to remain protected. So you could always run PoE. But in the case of these, I'm going to add an IC for battery management, and probably just use lithium batteries. And I suspect it'll get decent runtime. And then the big thing is having an app to control them and update key codes, because our current locks always require staff to go on site if a code needs to be changed, and it'd be nice to have remote functionality. And I'll probably actually, just to make it easier for myself, I'm thinking I'm going to do that through Home Assistant. Easier to pay $5 for Home Assistant. Yes, so they do have USB ports on them as well. So like if it died, instead of using a key override, you could provide it external power. And yeah, you could always design that to do charging as well if you wanted. For our use, it's probably just faster and easier to swap a new battery in when it's low. But that's one of the main ones on my to-do list. Initially wanted this prototype built like months ago, but it's been throwing curveballs at me, which is annoying. The PMP machine will be for the summertime. I'm gonna buy the Lubin PMP from Opulo. And the main reason for buying it is for this project. I have a second company that is now buying into this project, so I have to make even more. And I have to go back through the designs to fix things. The multi-material printer, I'm not entirely sure if I want to or not. Initially I was going to buy Bamboo, but Bamboo Labs is being the annoying selves lately, so no. And initially I was going to do different materials for making the scanner bodies for the barcode scanners, to make support material better. But I've been playing with like print orientations and organic supports and stuff, and have been having great success with it, so I almost don't need the multi-material. The only aspect I might need it is the gift card ATM machine. I've been working on designs and thought processes for that, and was getting really annoyed because or not getting annoyed, for the gift card ATM machine, to try and keep it slim and have enough shelves to fit gift codes. Thinking of 3D printing my own like vacuum nozzle of sorts that could have a set of holes and be like slim, so that like the tube comes from the side, and that way it just comes over, picks up the code and pulls it out. I've actually ordered Express. I've ordered one of these. I ordered this kit, which comes with the Arduino. Not that I really need another Arduino, but it's got this really nice shield, and their items plug and play into it, so I figured I'd make it easier on myself to prototype and test the idea by just buying the complete kit. I don't necessarily need this nozzle, but obviously it gives me a starting point to kind of test, can the vacuum actually pick up the code? Is it enough with this particular pump? The actual sucker isn't too bad. I think it's about 25 millimeters. But obviously, once you add all this metal, it gets way too large. So my idea would be to 3D print out a TPU, some sort of small sucker, and then just print like ABS, or likely ABS. That way I can use acetone to seal the whole thing and prevent vacuum leaks. And just build a box like right above it, and that box would be would give you the ability to hook up the hose to it, and then hopefully I can come over and pick up a gift code, but also make it slim enough that I can maximize the space that the machine uses. The other thing I've had to order for that project is these. I'm going to order more, but I've ordered one just to test. The agency has switched out the codes they use. And even with the original codes they were planning on using, I have a Flipper Zero. That after a short while somebody ported code over from another system of RFID development that I do have somewhere. Actually, don't think I have it readily available. I think it's in a box somewhere. But the Flipper Zero can read the old staff tag codes. And thankfully, once I loaded an app onto this, it can read the newer codes. Oh my goodness, I have not been showing my screen. That's annoying. Originally I was talking about this, which is the vacuum system that I have on order for testing for the gift card ATM machine. But for the general project, staff have to log into it so that the system knows who's using it and what actions to give them. So I've ordered one of these codes for testing. I already know the Flipper will read it. And thankfully someone did a project. They did this. They did this project, where they essentially recreated the Flipper Zero, and were able to get it to work. They did have issues with 125 kilohertz RFID, but after speaking with them, that's easy to get around. But the new tags obviously don't use that, so the components they've used for various things are readily available. And so one of the projects I want to do is actually build one, and see if I can't make my own like flipper. Not the full flipper. I only need the MCU and the RFID reader, and if I can make both of those work, and obviously learn how to program an STM, and break down the code from Flipper that makes this work. Hopefully I can make my own reader, and the reason for jumping through all those darn hoops is simply because I have a reader that works with the old codes. I don't think the samples I have work with the new ones, and it took 1.5 years to get the samples in the first place. So I don't intend to go trying to get more samples from that company. Like, I already have another agency that wants to buy it. And if I get more later down the line, I don't want to be like, hey, it's going to take me 1.5 years to build this for you, because one company doesn't know how to sell their own product. No, it doesn't pick up any false readings. These are within like 5 centimeters. They're not the UHF tags. Those are the ones that you can read just by passing by. These ones basically require you to tap on to a card to read it, which is fine. It's what I need for it. I do actually have in my wish list, because the front of the scanner has a spot to fit RFID, and I want to build a couple options for it. So one of the things I have in my AliExpress wish list to test is one of these. These are the UHF ones, and I wouldn't mind picking up a few of them to kind of test what the read range is. Because if you can get some distance on them, it'd be kind of nice. It'd also be interesting to try putting them above a door frame, so that you just pull items out. Yeah, no worries, John. This was like a last minute thing. I wanted to fill a bit of time before your stream. And obviously I got the idea from you of, hey, I should lay out what my projects are for this year. Which is basically my main inventory project. I've started cleaning up my workbench because I need to organize my tools. The big problem on my workbench at the moment is actually right here is an extra monitor, and it originally was sitting on top of a massive old amplifier through my headphones because it has a nice volume dial and I can adjust the bass and stuff. And I need to get myself a different headphone thing that doesn't take up 2 feet by 1 foot of space by 6 inches. I finally mounted the monitor up so it's out of my way and it's no longer attached to this amplifier. But if I move the amplifier, I'll have space for my bench power supply, and then once I get it into a more permanent position, I can hook up the RS482 adapter for it, which I have the USB adapter for that, but I do want to see if I can just pipe it into an ESP so that I can do the same overlay we have for the UT61, just to make things nice and compatible. But I want to move that over. I need to finally get rid of the one power bar I have on my bench. I've been meaning to pick up some electrical stuff at the store, and I want to put some smart plugs in so that I can organize all the cables and space and tools. There's a few other tools that need to get organized, and things need to find their space because I need space. Build a really nice desk, but I've cluttered it all with stuff that doesn't need to be here. So that's on my list before the summer. My server is downstairs in my electrical room. I finally built that space out, which I sent John a photo. I don't think I actually posted photos on my Discord. Oh, I did actually. Yeah, so that space got built out. Let's open it up. So I have the rack here. Initially, one of my holdups was I was thinking I was gonna have to try and get a cable from my living room down to here so that I could move my modem from the living room to here. Turns out the modem comes in from over here to the left of my screen, inside the room already. So all I have to do is break that connection and run a smaller cable to here. But I do need to run new cables for the access points, which I have pull strings in for half of it, so that shouldn't take too long. And then I have conduit down here. There are 3 sets of plugs, so that I'm going to put in plugs for this server, that server, and obviously to run the rack. Screen is mounted up, ready to go. I've already picked up a rack shelf that the modem can sit on, and one of my smaller switches that does not have a rack mount for it, so it can sit on the shelf. And I've got a 24-port patch panel that will also fit in here, and I'm sure I'll add other things at some point. What else? Yeah, so I gotta run a bunch of cables, and I got the next week off from school, so that's probably gonna be on my to-do list, is to start getting this outfitted. I know I need to buy more keystone jacks, so we're gonna be delayed for that aspect. But once the server is up and running, it already has 2 instances of Home Assistant. One will become the main instance and replace my existing setup. The other one will become kind of my playground so that I'm not constantly rebooting or starting Home Assistant. I have 2 sets of external Node-RED running outside of Home Assistant. So again, one's for production, one's for testing. Home Assistant will also have the additional Node-RED in it, but I'm going to just simply pass things along and not actually do everything within Home Assistant, because I hate doing all the updates and all the reboots it does, and yeah, I'm separating them now so that it's easier in my mind to deal with it. Gonna load up Jellyfin and move all my extra stuff off my workspace computer to the server, and then I'm gonna load up some file storage as well. And the main thing I want to put on the file storage is all my KiCad stuff, which annoyingly I tried upgrading this computer to Windows 11, and it started running extra slow once I got the BIOS all set up and everything, so I reverted it. And in that reverting process, one of the things it had me do was update the SSD I had with my operating system, and I followed a tutorial and did not read the tutorial first, so the very last step it warned reverting the change would cause a deletion of data. So I accidentally deleted my hard drive, which thankfully most of it can be rebuilt, like KiCad, and all my regular documents and stuff were on a different drive anyways. So it's just the operating system, which I had already rebuilt the operating system on a new M.2 drive, because that SSD was a quarter the size and Windows updates were just eating away at it. So I had already done a fresh install to get rid of old programs that I didn't like and for whatever reason just weren't uninstalling properly. But yeah, it would have been nice to save a few files. Um, so yeah, that was a very poorly written tutorial to stick the last element. Oh hey, this will delete everything. Not that you haven't already followed through the whole process. But yeah, so once the server's up and running, I'll go back and start rebuilding. One of the things I want to do is start building like libraries with all the various KiCad, or not KiCad, LCSC part numbers on it, which somebody actually ended up posting a few that are on GitHub already, so that saves me some hassle. No, I don't currently have a NAS, and that's what the server is going to be. This is a Dell T320, I think. So it's got 4 terabyte drives in it currently. I was gonna buy an 18 terabyte drive that was on sale, and then I waited too long and the sale ended. But that is gonna be my main space for storing files and stuff going forward. I have 2 4 terabyte drives in the computer I'm currently using, which stores everything currently. And one of them is almost full simply because I watch too much TV and movies. So the plan is to move that stuff over. And then the old computer that's currently running Home Assistant is going to go above the 3D printing tower, and then I'm going to mount a small monitor there so that I can watch TV in bed. The days that I'm feeling extra lazy and don't want to do it at my computer. I'll just wait for a large hard drive to go on sale. But that's the plan, is to get this up and running for the summer as well. Simply because one of them is mine, the one down below is for the project. And I'll have to get another server or something for the next agency that wants one as well. Let's see. Let's start another sheet build. So the various things I need to work on. The batteries. Main controller. Printer. RFID. So the main thing I'm doing this summer is going back through all my designs. The trike, oh yeah, I would love to do that one. It's mostly budget, but also I own a car now, so I haven't really touched that one. The main thing I would probably do on the trike is fix, I need a new battery for it for one, so buying a spot welder and some good battery cells, but also initially the way the key was going to work for that one, which is a good thing that needs work on, is I was going to use BLE to make that key work, and I was trying to do something. Tinker from our Discord group, he was getting a lot of Wi-Fi interference at his place, so we mocked up quick code that scans the Wi-Fi, and he's built a nice Node-RED dashboard that tracks it all. And we realized you could put it on a robot arm with a directional antenna, and you could essentially 3D map your neighborhood of Wi-Fi signals and figure out where the interference was coming from. But I was curious if you could do the same thing for Bluetooth, so I started trying to add Bluetooth code to it, and it almost immediately used up all the space on the ESP. turns out ESPs are not very good at Bluetooth. At least the code I was initially looking at. I tried looking at a few different libraries. I might go back and revisit that, because what I ideally wanted was the key fob for the next trike. I can't remember if it was going to look for Bluetooth or if it was always going to send out Bluetooth and the trike would respond. And then if you push a button on the remote, it would use a different frequency for the long range transmission. But obviously, if I can't program the ESP to run Bluetooth because it uses too much space, then it's a moot point. The other option, of course, would be looking at dedicated like NRF BLE chips, and maybe buying some sort of a dev board from Adafruit to experiment with. So yeah, I guess I can add that to the list. Wouldn't hurt for general experimenting, because most of the experimenting I was currently doing was focused around developing new and better electronics for it. Yeah, you could do NFC from the phone. The main reason I wanted a key fob is just because I like key fobs. And some of the functions I wanted on the key fob were to ability to, because the next one I want to have a canopy, so I want to be able to pop that canopy open as I'm walking up to it. But also it'll have like a push button start, so that I don't have to use a key all the time. And the other option I wanted on the key fob was the ability to activate the lighting system on it, because I always run amber lighting on my e-bikes. Yes, a seat warmer would definitely be on the list. The other one I found is what is it? I'll have to find the search term for that. Oh no, I found a few of them. I know the search term on Amazon is better than this. This one's a small one, but it gets the point across. Something you can buy are these. They've actually started making home heaters that use this type of technology, which is a PTC heater. So they're really energy efficient, because as they heat up and get hotter, the resistance changes, and thus they use less power to stay hot. So I wanted to make like a forced air system, because it will be in a canopy. You'll want defoggers for colder weather, especially with the wind and stuff. And one of the things I wanted to put in place is that when I plug it into charge in like the garage, I want to give it like an Ethernet connection as well and let it connect to everything, so that I can remotely. No, this is way too large for wearables. For wearables, oh, let me just find it. I actually own some, and I never actually ended up using it. But there's this company. This company makes this carbon fiber tape, and it is soft as silk. Do they have any good photos of it? So it's this weave, and you can stitch a piece of wire to it, and they recommend you use silver epoxy, electrically conductive silver epoxy, which is abhorrently expensive, although that was like 10 years ago, so price might be better these days. But you put wire on one end and a wire on another end, and the distance that it has to travel is whatever the distance is, kind of dictates what voltage you might want to use, as well as kind of dictates how much power the element will use, and it generates heat. But they're fully flexible, and you can they have examples on Instructables of how to use this stuff, and you can even encapsulate it in OTV silicone gasket maker to make it fully waterproof if you needed to, but you can stitch it inside clothing and blankets and stuff and make really nice heated gear. So I would use something like that for like a heated seat on a new trike build. Right. So with the batteries, one of the main things I need to do is fix the charger. Its default power rating is way too high. So if the BMS trips, it causes the charger circuit to reset itself. And the only way to fix it is if you can get the MCU to boot up. But obviously if the battery is too low, it won't do anything because it'll keep tripping itself out because the charger can't provide enough power. The original circuit I tried was showing double the power than it was actually using. So I want to go back through the circuit and compare it to the dev board that I made, where it did work on the dev board properly, and figure out where I went wrong. Because even though the dev board uses a few extra components, it worked the way I wanted it to, which is its default was 128 milliamps, so like really low for what the battery can handle. But at least it would attempt to charge, and then once everything was up in level, the MCU could kick in and tell it, hey, you're fine to charge at a higher rate. And it didn't kill the power supply that was feeding it in the first place. The main controller, we are removing the NRF. I just, too much of a hassle. I've kind of put my foot down and said our best bet is to use Wi-Fi. And if we don't use Wi-Fi, then we could use ESP Now, but ESP Now still has would have somewhat similar issues. And I can make gateways for Ethernet. The only real issue we'd have with ESP Now is that you would run into device limits, especially if you're all bunched together, but I'm not building more than 4 units in agency currently, so not too much of an issue. RFID, remake the flipper 0 example, and then obviously have to make code for that to test it, and hopefully I can read the RFID cables. The printer, one of the things I want to do is try and eliminate the dual the dual ESP setup, because the S3 has its own USB OTG support. I don't think it was the OSG that was causing the issues. I think it's the way the libraries are written. I need to I want to run a test. I can run the test within VS Code actually. I've seen if I can make the printer USB library work with the ESP32's USB library. And if I can, it theoretically should be able to control the printer directly. Because currently it uses an ESP32, not the S3, but the 32, connected to a SPI USB hub chip. And if I can make it connect just to the S3, it not only simplifies the code, but it would also simplify the circuit board, because I could theoretically use the same circuit board for the printer for the main controller as well, and just not add certain chips. So like don't need haptic on the printer, so don't run haptic on that circuit board, or you could have it and gosh forbid something happened, you just swap parts over. But yeah, I want to eliminate dual ESP and the USB host IC. We're going to remove the NRF. We're going to combine the wire harnesses. So like the handle has a trigger, has the haptic motor, and has a touch sensor, and then has the on-off switch. Each one of those has its own cable going for it. So if I'm ever taking it apart doing maintenance on it, I have to sit there adjusting or pulling out cables and plugging them back in. Instead, I just want to put it on a one jack, so that it's easier to unplug and do it, because every single one of those items is soldered on the cable anyways. So it's fine if that's disassembled and you need to change the motor, then you're just desoldering the motor anyways. But at least then it's easier to separate from the main body. I'm going to make LED sticks, so the scanners have LEDs on the sides. Those were a pain in the butt to solder, pain in the butt to install. Howdy, Frank. We won't be here for too long, Frank. It's almost time for John's stream. I'm just outlining some of my projects for the year. So I want to make custom LED sticks with connectors. The bonus of that is that I can put some screw holes, screw them into those spots, and then the connector, just plug and play. Easy for maintenance, easy to assemble, so on and so forth. Just this note. What else? I'm adjusting a lot of the scanner's assembly just to make it better for printing. So like I've been doing, I should think I have it dirty. Still have it under the workbench. This is one of the scanners for example. Actually, move a few things around. Should put this under the workbench. I can show. Yeah. There's the scanner. This was the original lid I made. And what I'm doing is a bunch of tests. So I've been trying other filaments lately based on recommendations. So this was originally done in ABS, and then sand it, glazing coat, filler primer, and paint, and a 2K clear. Works nicely. The moment you drop this, layers start chipping. The plastic deforms a little bit, but it's not major, but the paint doesn't stay, and then it looks really ugly. It's also a whack load of work trying to do that. Instead, I'm hoping to kind of design it so that I can print it and use it. This was done with, so I finally upgraded my printer, X-axis and extruder, and the fan, and it works great. So this is regular PETG, and the way I did this is I actually printed it like this. So it's at an angle, very minimal supports just to help hold it from wiggling, and then the very few spots where it has overhangs, it had supports, but the supports are all on the back side, so none of it interferes with the sections that you would see. And I did organic supports, which are put beautifully. That's regular PETG at 0.25, and it's not bad. It's overly shiny, and you can see a good portion of the layer lines, but it's not too bad. I've even shown people that aren't 3D printer people, and they're fine with it. I'm a little more paranoid about the layer lines. So then you have carbon fiber, and oh my gosh, this stuff is amazing. And then I found out some of the health and safety hazards of using this stuff. So the one potential is that I would still have to spray it with a clear coat to kind of protect it. And then I did do it again in ABS, and it's not bad in ABS either. But you would probably still want to drop the layer lines low. The ABS is definitely better than the regular PETG. The other one I have is I bought matte filament. And it works fairly well. But I've been having some issues printing it. So I'm doing some tuning on that. But because I've had issues with it, I think it's just the characteristics of the additives in it that are making it difficult to print. If I can't get that to print, I'm definitely leaning towards the carbon fiber, just because it hides everything nicely, it prints really nicely, and it's great. And then like other things I'll probably change, like this will probably be slightly larger. I'll probably adjust some of like the curves so that when they're printing, it's not leaving high layer lines. Definitely like around these lights, I tried putting them on a slight angle. Not really needed, so this can be completely flush. The handle, I actually want to make it multiple parts so that it actually screws into the main body, and then I can reorientate things in a better position. It would also open the opportunity to design like a TPU cover that could go over top of the handle. Like you look at the LEDs, like that's a bunch of soldering, trying to put enamel wire in place. So instead, like I want to swap that out for its own little circuit board where I can put a screw in it and have a connector right at the end, and then it all just plugs into the main control board. I put last minute I realized I could add an accelerometer that can go right onto the main control board. If I'm eliminating this RFID unit for one that I'm going to build and base off of the information I can gather about the Flipper Zero, I can eliminate the 5 volts this needs, which means I can cut down on this power supply circuit board as well while I'm at it. So there's various options, and even with this power supply and how much I was using it, this battery would last quite a while, which is great. Like even from the estimates I was having, it's doubling it, so I'm glad it is very functional. Yeah, so I didn't double book. I hadn't intended this to really take the full hour, but it did. I'm rambling. But that's most of my projects for the year is custom locks, custom scanners, and getting my home network up and running. So maybe I'll chat about it more another day. But it's time to watch John. So cheers.